Hello there, you beautiful people. My name is Willow, and welcome to a Best of 5 series for the Legend of the Stars tournament. This is a qualifier series to see who gets to go to the full Legend of the Stars tournament. Without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce our players who will be playing on the map Crag Dunes. In the top, we have a red UEF by the name of Tagada, and he is going UEF first land. And in the south, we have a pink UEF by the name of Wounded Elk something. I don't... Wounded Elk Noob. It's right there in front of me. I just don't see it. And he is UEF also going first land. These two players are around the same rating at 2,000 and 2,300. Good luck, have fun. And the U2 already out. I'm going to go ahead and split the screens so we can watch both of these openers. Move this up a little bit and we can see how they get on. We do have an engineer out building some mass extractors and grabbing that reclaim. It does look like there is more pigeons queued up for Tagada. He currently has about, I would have to guess, 11 or 13, something around there. It's an odd number. And then we only have 7 out for Wounded Elk Noob. He does have an engineer, can't speak, engineer assisting him on that. But yes, this is a best of 3 to qualify for the Legends of the Stars tournament. And I think that the openers are pretty well established, so let's go ahead and go back to this. We can check on what exactly they're going to be doing from here on out. We do have a snoop out for Tagada going down to this bottom left-hand kind of ravine or passage, and it is going to be actually spotted out by the enemy snoop, who is also here, and these snoops are going to exchange fire. Ooh, Snoop Micro is gonna be to the max, I would believe. We have another snoop up here for Wounded Elk. We do have air out first for Wounded Elk. Is he going for a bomber? He is. He's going to be having a bomber up slightly before the factory finishes, or maybe the factory finishes a little bit earlier, but that bomber could cause some dire issues for Tagada, especially if it starts picking off some of these early expanding engineers. You never want that. We do have the hydrocarbon being taken by Tagada up here in the top left hand corner, and the same with less engineers happening for Wounded Elk. As far as economies go, it looks like they're relatively even, only a couple of mass between these two players, constantly reclaiming. We can check the... oh, we cannot check the reclaim numbers. It's not currently working. I wonder why that is. This bomber did get out here, and it does seemingly pick up a kill on something, I think. It kills an engineer here, and it bombed the air factory, so actually it ended up killing an interceptor or a bomber that was in production. And now we have some engineer micro out from Tagada as he tries to keep this engineer alive. The question is, how long can he keep that up? Nope. The bomber has retargeted onto the hydrocarbon. And we have a second bomber out from Tagada. A mobile AA has been dispatched to try and deal with this bomber. It is going to take a little bit. That bomber has one veterancy and 3 kills to its name. This hydrocarbon, losing it would be so painful for Tagada, but it does look like that's going to happen. Is he going to go into a power stall because of this? Is the question. He most certainly will. He cannot currently support his current production without pausing a few things, I would guess. And that is a very critical blow to the early economy of Tagada. And we do have more bombers landing bombs in these just patches of fire onto power generators. Just absolutely targeting down that power. A very good strategy. It's going to cause a lot of long-term pain, and that's 3 more power gens taken down. He's taking out power much faster than Tagada can build it, but we do have an interceptor in the air, and we do have a bomber in retaliation trying to get some power taken out. but there is a T1 mobile anti-air and an interceptor here to cut that down. So that definitely is a net positive for Tagada. He is set, or a net positive for Wounded Elk. He has set Tagada very far behind, and both of the comms are looking like they're going to meet over here. We don't have any upgrades on either comm, but any kills these comms can get is absolutely essential to the the early game economies and unit counts. Each unit a comm kills is absolutely vital. Gives you so much of an advantage over your enemy. 3 kills to Elk's comm and only 4 to Tagada, so not very high numbers now, but as long as they keep fighting, I would assume that this would go relatively even. Tagada eating a lot of fire, down to 8,500-ish HP, while Elk is currently sitting at 11,000. He's just going to keep walking forward. Tagada is going to have to come up with a solution to this, and it does seem that Elk has decided not to follow through with that. He doesn't know what's up and over here to cause him issues. If we go ahead and look at the mass income per second, we can see that Tagada is severely behind, it would seem. 17 versus 23 for Wounded Elk. Reclaim numbers are definitely making this number up here fluctuate quite a bit. We do have Tagada currently falling precariously low on health, down below 5,000 HP. Wounded Elk still super healthy at 10,000 HP. And we do have units streaming in for Tagada, but this could be a very dire situation. Wounded Elk can definitely survive the explosion, so this is not looking to be a draw just yet. We do have 3,200, 3,000 hit points on the comm, 10,000 still for Wounded Elk. He is still much higher than his opponent's comm's health, and this could be very dangerous for him if he does not manage to find a way to get out of here. We do have a PD built, which may persuade Wounded Elk to leave the premises, but no, it is going to be a draw. I don't know how much health Tagada got to, but that was either a control K from Tagada to make sure that this was a draw so that they could fight again, or it was a kill due to the death of Tagada's comm. So there was either a control K, or somehow Wounded Elk did not have enough HP to survive that. But that is going to be a draw on Crag Dunes, which means there will be another match on Crag Dunes. And we will be getting into that very shortly. Alright everybody, we are back onto Crag Dunes with the same players in the same positions. I'm going to go ahead and just immediately go to split screen so we can see how they go on, see if they change anything up. I would assume that at the very least Tagada will change his strategy a little bit, be more prepared for that T1 bomber possibly, but Wounded Elk may not even go for such a strategy a second time. And we are in to the second match of this best of 3, which may have 4 games. It's a very interesting situation indeed. And as we can see, just starting off yet again, generally power spamming, getting up factories. He has a very early mech marine. First thing built as a mech marine. We will have to keep an eye on that on the mini-map. Make sure that nothing super crazy goes on with that. What were they saying? I didn't even notice the 3rd bomber killing 4 pigeons and 5 NGs. Alright. A little bit of playful banter there. Elk was definitely getting the better of his opponent there. I'm not sure exactly how that went down. I felt that Elk had enough health, so maybe Elk control K'd to force a draw. Maybe he didn't feel confident in winning the game from that point, or he thought that he may die if he tried to run away. Which is a valid idea. We do have mech marines out for both players. Both players going for early mech marines, which is very strange because both players were going for early bombers the last time. This mech marine is going to try and get in behind here and kill the engineer, expanding to the hydrocarbon, or possibly catch it out over here. We have 2 mech marines on the way from Elk though. on the left-hand side. Let's go ahead and separate these out so we can just see exactly what's going on. An engineer in dire trouble, only a Snoop here to defend. This engineer is most likely going to die, as the engineer for Tagada has managed to find its, or the mech marine for Tagada has managed to find its own mech engineer. We do have one dead engineer for both sides now. A badly damaged mech marine. It does look like a reclaim order was possibly set upon that. This mech marine is probably going to die here. Both groups of mech marines have seemingly been dispatched. This mech marine is going to manage to run away from that tank and snoop, but I doubt it's going to get much more done. Back to a single screen, as we have the also important micro of the early game mech marine done. Noob 3 is trying to cheat. I'm guessing that's an observer to this match. Because I don't think Wounded Elk would show up as Noob 3 down there. We do have a Snoop and some tanks rolling down the left-hand side here, whereas we have about the same number of units rolling down the right-hand side for Elk. Tagada trying to press up here. Both comms going to this left-hand side again. Sometimes on this map I have seen players split their comms, one comm on each side. It kind of creates a rotating war where this side's always pushing for one side, for one player, and the other side's pushing for the other. Can be very interesting to see the map play out that way. Crag Dunes, as I don't think I pulled this up earlier, there is reclaim near the bases, and there's a few patches of reclaim. Nothing exceptionally astounding as far as reclaim numbers go, but it is enough to keep you going, to help you get into those extra factories and expand without having to just absolutely eat the cost of expanding. We do have a bomber out from Tagada. We do not have anything in the way of air production up yet for Elk. This could be very dangerous. We do have a few mobile anti-air laying around, but without any form of air unit, it is going to be very difficult. An engineer being picked off over here by that Scorcher T1 bomber. Another engineer is going to go down over here. No engineer micro to be seen out from Elk. It is very taxing on your attention and everything else, but these two T1 mobile AA have managed to shoot down the issue. If I were Tagada, though, I would definitely switch up production. Yep, and he is from interceptors to bombers. He's scouted that there is no air factory. He should be relatively confident in the idea that he will not need interceptors, at least for a little while. As we have Tagada grabbing these two mexes over here on the left. Ecos are relatively equivalent. It does seem that as far as trades go, Elk has been getting the better of him. This match, it does, as you can see, the kill to loss ratio is very much so in the favor of Wounded Elk at the moment, but that is not exceptionally important, as losing just a couple of units can sway that here in the early game. If we look at it again, yeah, he just lost a unit or two, and it's gone back up for Tagada. We're not quite at those crazy mass loss totals yet. We do have the comms in an altercation once again on this left-hand side. Not quite similar, but a very familiar situation compared to last game. Both players using their comms aggressively, as they should, to try and just pick off a few T1 units, killing off these mexes with the comm, just try and get that veterancy built up. Tagada being a little bit more efficient with his comm, getting a little bit more kills with it so far. And that's going to be the third kill for Wounded Elk's comm. I was hearing bombers. They seemingly took out some units over here on the right-hand side. It doesn't seem that the bombers are quite interested in trying to take out power or anything, but they are going to go for this little clump of T1 units over here, and it does seem that they're going to get quite a few units dying left and right to this, and they now have a prime opportunity, since they took out that anti-air, to absolutely mop up on this side of the map. These T1 bombers definitely causing issues. We do have a T1 bomber out from Elk, but now it's a little bit of a difficult ask to for him, because he has one bomber and one inti versus multiple bombers and multiple intis. We do have bombs landing over here. He is going to end up killing off a few units with this Scorcher. He's going to deal with these. I don't think there's any mobile anti-air, but there is interceptors out, and they're going to shoot down that bomber nearly immediately. We do have bombers killing off power in the main base of Elk. This is a very dire situation, and almost the exact opposite to last game where this was happening to Tagada. Elk needs to get control of his airspace. He has managed to pick off all but one of the bombers so far, but there's such an interceptor lead and more bombers just pouring out of this factory to try and kill off this power grid. Let's go ahead and check on Elk. His power is still fine. This has not put him into a stall quite like it did for Tagada. Maybe he has more factories paused, though. We do have a large altercation going on over here, and we have yet again Tagada on relatively low HP. He's down to sub 5,000 HP, while Wounded Elk is still sitting at double that. And we have a bunch of units just clashing here, right here in the middle of this ravine, and it looks like both comms are going to disengage from here relatively amicably. They're not going to... Nope, never mind. Tagada's walking forward again with his comm, which is on much lower health. Elk needs to get his comm firing on Tagada's, at least for a little bit. Tagada falling back to the safety of his units. Elk running out of units relatively quickly, and this is a very dire situation for Elk. I'm not sure he can sustain this much longer. He needs to get something over here to help him out. Needs a PD possibly built back here, try and keep himself safe, keep himself alive in this situation. He still has a shot at winning this match. He is in fact ahead on mass economy as far as mass income is concerned, I guess. And we do have some more units streaming in here for Elk, but this is a very dire situation. Tagada is now in the lead as far as comm HP points go, and Elk is down below 3,000 HP, and we have Scorches coming in if this comm drops below 2k HP before this one explodes. And oh, it's going to be very close, but I think this is going to be a second draw. In fact, it is going to be a second draw, and we are going to go to match 3 of this best of 3 with no player having an advantage. 2 draws on Crag Dunes back to back. Let's go ahead and get into game 3 of this best of 3, and I will see you on the other side. We are now on game 3 of this best of 3 that could go to 5 games. So we may be playing a best of 5, technically speaking, but we are on to game 3. We've had 2 draws. Let's go ahead and swap over to split screen cam once again to see how these players are going to use their openers to their advantages. Let's see if any player can grab an advantage here in game 3. See if they can manage to get that one up and move on to another map. I'm sure they're both getting a little bit tired of playing on Crag Dunes. I mean, back-to-back draws on this map definitely does not make you interested to play yet another game on it. We do have yet again a first Mech Marine out from Tagada, feeling that his strategy from the last game was valid, feeling that if he had just played it slightly differently, he could have won that with flying colors. And it does seem that Elk has learned from his mistake last time. He is going to be building an air factory nice and early this game, not going to leave that up to chance. He wants to make sure that he gets his gets his air power online early, get up some inties, prevent bombers from killing off his power and his units. We can go ahead and come over here and check on that Mech Marine. as it comes down. It looks like it's going to be following the same route from earlier, try and flank around here, possibly pick up the exact same engineer. Kind of like I'm watching a deja vu situation, but it has been spotted out by Elk, and I think he knows what this is. He's going to be sending his own mech marine to try and deal with it. Oh, it didn't quite spot it with the vision. Wasn't quite enough. Oh, when's he gonna realize this is a mech marine? Oh, it's gonna be too late. He's lost that engineer. That engineer is lost, but there is a tank coming out, and it does seem that the engineer managed to get off a reclaim order, but it's dead. It's dead, but so is the mech marine. Both players losing that, and yet again another mech marine scouted out by a snoop. That's just going to lead to the response of a tank and kill off the mech marine, and your life is good and gravy. That striker already in production, already 40% done. It's going to come out here. It's probably going to come straight up and just try and defend this engineer building the hydrocarbon. We do have first air units out from Wounded Elk. He is going to be able to get out that first bomber, and it's already going to go down immediately to an interceptor. That is very painful. Bombers are super expensive in the early game. You cannot afford to lose them without any kind of unit death for your enemy. It's very difficult to deal with, but I'm sure that Elk has his own way of finding out what he wants to do in this match. We do have this mech marine over here. It's managed to kill off an engineer and a snoop. So that is a very effective mech marine. Cost much less than a bomber and got more done than his bomber. And that interceptor has gone down. Anything built out of this air factory is going to die. 2 interceptors beats 1 interceptor unless mobile anti-air has been built. We do have an archer on the way for Elk, as this game seems a little bit calmer. Nobody's gotten a massive air advantage that's happened. Well, I guess this is an air advantage, but it's not insurmountable. You're producing engineers. Very much so seems that the T1 air game has been exceptionally important for this match. For this matchup of players. Yet again, both players deciding the left flank is where the comm goes. I don't know if that is just a me thing. If I would think you'd want to shake it up at least once and just try and come over here, try and draw the game out and force it into a more macro style of game instead of this microing bombers and just using small groups of units, possibly get to T2, but nope, these players are committed to fighting it out with their comms, brawling it out, using those comms to just try and pummel their enemies to death. And if that's what they wish to do, then so be it. We have a snoop over here going to die to a couple of strikers, so that intel is going to be lost for Tagada. A snoop just laserdaxily firing its 2 DPS weapon into this tank. Eventually it will kill it. And we do have the comms trading fire yet again, but this time Tagada has learned from his old ways. He has managed to build a T1 PD super early over here in this little clearing, and it is going to prove very difficult for, well, not difficult, but it's definitely going to be a little kind of a speed bump in the way of Elk's advance over here on the left flank. We do have a bomber coming out over here for Elk, and he is looking to use that probably on these units encroaching on the right hand flank. He is going to kill 3 tanks with that 1 bomber. It would have killed 3 tanks. One of the tanks got shot while it was getting killed by that AoE DPS effect that the UEF bombers do have, that little carpet of fire that they like to rain down on things. We have a Scorcher out for Tagada, being very angry with a hillside, dropping all of its bombs on it, and then just, yeah, it doesn't like terrain very much. Terrain is its enemy, apparently, sworn enemy. as it continues to miss units. Oh, there we go. Finally, a good bomb connects, killing 2 units, and this bomber over here managing to pick up 3 kills and is now heading towards the main base. Another bomber in the main base over here for Tagada is going to kill off 2 engineers and hit this AA, E1AA that's been built up by Tagada. Both players doing surprisingly well at defending against air attacks compared to the last couple of games where each player had a game where they definitely lost air control and it cost them dearly in the way of their power grid or in the way of large groups of units. We have a little bit of an altercation going up here in the top right-hand corner, the northeastern side, and it is going much better for Tagada as a few strikers just walk into a wall of strikers over here. UEF versus UEF. All of the units are named the same damn thing, as it is with all mirror matchups, and I don't know why I'm pointing this out. Call me Captain Obvious. We don't have any more spicy stuff going on over here. We do have Tagada trying to rebuild that point defense. A little bit hopeful with how much T1 artillery is over here. Let's go ahead and check on the economy totals. It looks like Elk is... it's hard to tell who's in the lead here, but let's just go to mass totals. Both players sitting around the same mass totals. Let's look at vision. We do have a large amount of intel over here from Wounded Elk using that T1 radar. Does Tagada have the same luxury? No, he doesn't, seemingly. I don't know if he's built a radar yet, but if he has, it's definitely further back. We are getting gun damage and range for Tagada, as well as probably gun damage and range also for Elk, if I had to guess. If not, then it's T2, and if he's getting T2, then he's very hopeful about the situation over here. A gun comm can definitely kill off T2 PD relatively easily, especially with support from its army. We do have a lot of units. Let's go ahead and check on numbers of strikers. We have 50 strikers for Elk and 56 for Tagada. I'm sure the artillery numbers are around the same as well. Both players relatively evenly matched in their output of units. Let's see who's being more efficient as far as the trades go. Elk yet again ahead as far as the trades go. And that is very interesting. These players very evenly matched, in fact. Going blow for blow, tit for tat. You have a lot of paused factories over here for Tagada. Is he having troubles with power? It would seem so. With that gun upgrade on the way, he's definitely having troubles with the power for it. Whereas Elk has managed to finish his earlier. He definitely had more power to start with, 600 power versus 460. So Tagada kind of running his economy a little bit thin, trying to get that gun upgrade before his opponent. And it took him a lot longer. And let's look at the chat. We better draw. All right. They are having fun with this. Just instead of qualifying for the tournament, they will be here in during the finals. They will still be trying to qualify as they draw repeatedly on Crag Dunes. We have units grouping up over here. We have nano repair on the way for Elk. If he manages to get that and then tries and press the issue, he could get quite a bit done with that comm. He's going to be regenerating a lot while in combat. He's already regenerating 10 per second. We'll check what that number jumps up to whenever he is when he has finished that upgrade. Let's go ahead and check on his economy. He's able to afford it, but just barely. He has built e-storage, and so has Tagada. Both of them having the capability to overcharge currently. And we have Tagada also getting nano repair. Both of these players taking very similar cues, to making the same decisions. Very great minds think alike at the moment. This just shows it. Both players realizing exactly what they want and what they need to win, and it's just a matter of who uses their tools better as they keep on choosing to take the same upgrades at pretty much the same time. But Tagada, once again, power stalling heavily. He just does not have the power economy of Wounded Elk to make himself able to just pump out these upgrades. If there was a time to push the issue, I think it would be now. If you can manage to cancel that upgrade, which, I mean, it's unlikely, but even if you get in there before the upgrade manages to finish and just kill off some of these units, that could be a dire victory for Elk. He is trying to hold off a push on the eastern side from Tagada, which he definitely has more units. Well, maybe not more units over here. We can just go ahead and check this. We have 50 strikers and 46 Lobos versus 60 strikers and 34 Lobos. So definitely more mobile artillery out for Elk and more strikers out for Tagada, which is a interesting situation. The Nano region taking both comms up to 50 HP every single second, and Elk is about to get his first rank of veterancy. Once he kills off just one more tank, he's going to be veterancy'd up, and now he's getting 56 mass per second. Tagada's still a little ways off on getting his upgrade, as far his vet upgrade. We do have a lot of units pushing over here for Tagada, but I don't think it's enough with this PD here. They maybe kill a factory, but that's not vital damage, as we have Elk over here threatening to cause severe infrastructural damage to Tagada, and is currently sitting at higher health totals than his opponent. Both players have reached Vet 1, but Tagada sitting at 10,000 HP pretty much, while Elk is sitting at max health at that 14,850 and just kind of keeping himself pegged right there. It does seem that that push forward has hurt both players' units counts. I'm not sure who's coming out ahead. The unit totals seem to be relatively evenly matched over here on the western flank as these two comms exchange blows. 8,500 health left on Tagada, whereas Elk is sitting at maximum HP. This is a very dangerous situation for Tagada. He needs to start pulling back now. He needs to build some PD. He needs to just get out of this situation. He has lost. His comm has taken so much more damage, and sure, he has killed more units, but that doesn't matter. The only unit in the game that truly matters is your ACU. You definitely need to keep it alive, and it doesn't seem that he's putting very much emphasis on doing that whatsoever. It's very easy for Elk to stay at pretty much maximum range and keep this up. He is getting now more regeneration per second as he's focused on getting that second vet upgrade, but it's going to be very difficult. He's at such an HP deficit that even with that regeneration, he would not win a gunfight. And now we have overcharges coming through in Veterancy 2 for Elk as well. 16,200 health for both of these players, and this push over here has not accomplished any significant damage to Elk, and now he is starting to pull ahead in the economy game. You have to wonder, is he debating going T2 anytime soon? He does have a T2 land factory upgrading currently. Do we have anything near the same for Tagada? We do not, and T2 units are going to start swaying this battle in a very Elk-centric fashion. It's going to be very dangerous here very soon for Tagada if he does not find a way to wiggle himself out of this bad situation he is on this western flank. He's going to lose a mass extractor, and he just doesn't have the production or unit capacity to push away Elk currently. Elk in a very strong position in this game, and if he can continue this aggression, continue putting out this map control that he currently has, he's going to slowly bleed Tagada out of this game. Tagada's still precariously low on health. He hasn't been above 5,000 health in so long, because Elk just keeps pushing forward and poking that comm with his own. These gun nano comms, these Rambo comms are just going to absolutely tear each other apart. Both players putting their comms very far forward and very much so in the line of fire. We have a run by over here, and it's going to start killing off power, which Tagada already has less power than Elk. He was already struggling to get those upgrades on his comm, and if all of these tanks focus it, I'm pretty sure that this hydrocarbon will die. But at the very least, it's pulling units away from the defense. It's making this so much harder for Tagada to hold on to. A very precarious situation for the red UEF player, as he's currently sitting around 7,000 health points. He's getting up there. He is managing to repair that comm up, but at what cost? We have more tanks over here just constantly going for power. They've killed off engineers that were building power back here to try and boost Tagada's economy, and they almost got that hydrocarbon. So close. Hydrocarbon sitting at 192 health. Both Elk and Tagada are trading blows still here in the middle. Tagada and Elk both very close to their next veterancy upgrade. Looks like Tagada is prioritizing that over getting more damage down on the comm, as where Elk continues his very persistent, just absolute HP advantage over Tagada. If he overcharges just a couple of units over here, he could very possibly get his veterancy upgrade as well, and that would continue to put him in the lead as far as HP totals go. We have a radar built very far forward for Elk. These engineers over here constantly reclaiming, and if we look at the mass totals, you can see Wounded Elk is coming ahead on those mass totals. It does seem that he is getting Tech 2 units out on the field on this right flank. We have Mongoose out and a couple of nope, just one pillar. But that's going to start meaning this eastern flank is no longer safe. We do have T2 units out on the field for Tagada, but he's built a power shield, a PGen, a parashield. It does help him a little bit, but I think it's already managed to die, and we have a Mongoose coming out now, but Tagada on such low health, in my opinion, sitting below 7,000 still. Both players getting a lot of veterancy on these comms, getting a lot of work done with these gun and nano comms, but it feels like Elk is getting the better of this situation in general. He has more T2 units over here. There isn't a single one for Tagada. I'm sure if he scouted, he would know that he has the capability to just absolutely destroy this army. As long as he keeps the Mongoose far enough back, he can definitely kill off this army and just start pushing in and hurting Tagada's economy yet again, causing more and more trouble for the red UEF player up here on the northern side, as he's also getting a lot of the reclaim over here. He has built a forward factory with an attack command, so his engineers will spawn and automatically reclaim. And we have a T2 engineer out here building a triad point defense on the front line. This is going to just make it even harder for Tagada to push back this ever persistent attack coming out from Elk. And as we crest the 19-minute mark, neither player is out of this game yet, but it is definitely looking relatively desperate for Elk, or for Tagada. Tagada is definitely behind, and I think he knows it. And on this eastern flank, we did have quite a few units die in that little push that was attempted by Tagada, but he managed to pull back in time when he realized he was outgunned on that flank. And this triad point defense, first one is already completed, and it's just firing shells out at enemy fortifications, killing off that mass extractor. And there is a ever persistent PD creep coming out from this Sparky, this Tech 2 combat engineer, and we have 2,500 health on Tagada. He is slowly losing health, and oh, this is so dangerous. A parashield coming in to try and save his health point totals down below 2k, and he just got a veterancy upgrade, so he's back up to 6.3 thousand health. 74 health a second on that comm. Elk is much further behind on his veterancy upgrades, as he has not been focusing on killing units, as instead using that comm as leverage to just pummel Tagada's comm. 74 health a second is not too shabby, but when your opponent is sitting at 68, the difference is honestly, it's noticeable, but it's not significant enough to just absolutely sway this battle. As we have overcharges flying every which way, Mongeese firing, units just absolutely going into each other, firing every shot. But there's not enough units left over here for Tagada, and that's going to be the end. GG. In the third game of this best of 3, we have our first successful win. There's not a draw, and game 1 of the actual best of 3, if you don't count the draws, goes to Elk. So Elk is up 1-0 versus Tagada. Let's go ahead and check out the next game in this series and see how it goes for these two players. See who's going to be qualifying for that Legend of the Stars tournament. Alright everybody, we are now on to the map Rusty Light, a 10 by 10 kilometer. I'm sure both of these players will be very accepting of the change of scenery, very happy to be playing on a bigger map where there's not so much emphasis on their comms. And let's see if this game lasts a little bit longer than the others. We do have Wounded Elk still in the pink, this time in the northern part of the map, whereas Tagada is in the south, and he is currently running himself Cybran. Both players actually Cybran. The different maps requiring different strategies and different factions. Sorry about the silence there. I needed to take a drink, and I had to unwrap my bottle. It was it's a bottle of water right from the store. Has one of those plastic wrappers on it. But yes, as we can see, we have first land out from both players, and both players quickly expanding to their hydros. It does seem that Elk is opting for the strategy of bringing his comm, as where Tagada is just sending multiple engineers over here to build factories and hydro and the hydrocarbon. Let's go ahead and swap back to the single view. And we can see a a hunter is out very early for Elk, whereas no such thing coming out of Tagada just yet. He could definitely build a hunter very soon, but he's instead just going to build a mantis, use that very defensively, hopefully, maybe catch out these units. That's the plan, I'm sure. Let's see who gets air production online first. I do believe it's going to be Elk, as he is 75% done building his air factory, and Tagada has yet to even start his. So we're going to see T1 bomber shenanigans for the 4th time in this best of 3. I just love that we're on game 4 and we've only actually had one game that wasn't a draw. It's absolutely stunning to me. I love it. In fact, we can see them another skillless draw. Hopefully, no. As we have both of the comms looking to fjord this. Is this a river? Seems like it'd be a river. This body of water. We have two bodies of water. We have water here in the middle. We also have reclaim spread out around the map, a lot here in the middle, and both comms are going to be fjording the river to make themselves known on the opposite side. Elk going to the east and Tagada going to the west, effectively. And both of them going to be setting up little production forward operating bases, so that way they can attack their opponent's economy and production. Hopefully, that's the plan at the very least, as this bomber has already managed to kill one unit. Was that an engineer or just a normal unit? I think that's an engineer wreck. Yep, engineer wreck. And has it managed to drop and kill anything else? Yes, it managed to kill off possibly another engineer. Yeah, it definitely looks like it killed off another engineer, and it's now going to be shot down by the interceptor, which is the response out from Tagada. Killing 3 engineers is no bad run for a T1 bomber. We do have land factories being built by Tagada over here. We have a Mantis and a Hunter over here. Did these kill anything? No, it does not seem so. There was some probably firing here in the middle. We do have a lot more production, it would seem, for Tagada at this current moment. He has 1, 2, 3, 4 land factories versus just... oh, nope, there is a 4th here. For Elk. Maybe he got his factories up sooner since he did not build the early air factory and the early bomber. Does seem there is a Mantis advantage overall, though. Let's just go ahead and double check that, though. 12 Mantis versus 18. So yeah, a slight advantage over to Tagada. He's going to be able to hopefully, or he's going to try to use that to kill off some engineers, maybe kill off some expansions. We do have a little bit of fighting going on down here. And up here, we do have an engineer that is unfortunately going to die, and a mechs that is also going to fall because of that, and possibly 2 mechs is falling down here for Elk as well. At the very least, this one is doomed. It is no longer going to be sending that sweet, sweet mass back home to Elk for his discretionary spending. Another engineer going down, and 3 Mantis wailing on this mass extractor means it's going to go down very quickly as well. And that's another mass extractor down. This T1 Mantis harass is doing wonders over here for Tagada. He is definitely getting much better results with his Mantis, as Elk has to constantly send Mantis to defend various locations. But in response to the larger number of Mantis, we can see that Elk has been a tad bit slower on Tagada has been a tad bit slower on expanding. Elk has managed to pick up more of the mass extractors in the map, as far as I can tell. Tagada sitting on currently 15 mexes versus Elk sitting on 12. But if you add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mexes to that, he definitely had more. He's losing it due to his lack of unit production. This can snowball quite heavily in the favor of Tagada if he just keeps the pressure up and keeps outproducing his opponent. I'm sure he knows that. And let's check on those Mantis numbers again, as it's looking very thin on the Mantis numbers for Elk. Tagada sitting at 51, whereas 39 for Elk, and he's spread thin. He's all over the map. We have this large clump of Mantis over here that's going to start causing major issues, possibly going to be able to run by and kill off 3 mexes and maybe a factory if he's very, very lucky. Whereas we do finally have some run-bys and some aggressive movements out from Elk. He's no longer willing to sit on the back foot and try to defend. He's going to kill off some of these mass extractors that Tagada has built. Not quite going to get these 2, but he did manage to pick up these 2 over here in the middle, as the calm of Tagada is out over here. No upgrades on it as of yet. It's going to try and secure a foothold over here, take over these 2 mass extractors, just give himself a little bit more economy to throw towards Mantis to throw at Tagada, if I had to guess. We have a transport dropping engineers up over here. He's going to get his 2nd hydro and 3 more mass extractors, and this is going to be relatively unassailable. I don't even know if T1 artillery can hit the mass extractors. They definitely cannot hit the hydrocarbon. As we have a small group of units out over here from Elk that are about to be caught out by just a rock and a hard place of Mantis. A murder of Mantis. I wonder what that's called. Like, what is the social gathering of praying Mantis? Let's see. I'm actually looking that up right now. A mantid refers to an entire group of mantis. So a mantid of mantis. That seems uninspired. Oh yeah, we'll just change one letter. As we have conflicts brewing on various flanks. We did get these two mass extractors over here killed. Sorry. I was still thinking about the mantid of mantis thing. I'm apparently very distracted for this one. Between my drinking from my water and just absolutely zoning out there for a couple of seconds. We do have a transport on its way over here to try and drop this forward operating base of Elk. It is going to get off 6 mantis from the look of it. Maybe there's a artillery in there. Nope, 6 or 5 mantis and a scout. And that is going to cause very much so large issues. It's possibly going to be able to kill off these factories. If not, just kill off these 3 mexes, maybe move over and kill the hydrocarbon. It's any mantis that come out of this are just going to pretty much instantly die. They will eventually die to the reinforcing mantis and possibly these over here, but they will get some economic damage down as we have a large push coming out from Wounded Elk trying to push in towards the same location, but it's definitely going to be a little bit harder to get it over there. I don't know if he has the numbers to make this work, but he does have reinforcements coming over here, and he could possibly attempt to pincer this group of mantis and absolutely get a decisive victory over here, but he may get it even without that. He does have a lot of mantis here. Stealth finishing for Tagada, and it does seem that he also got gun range and speed. Let's go ahead and check on the comm of Wounded Elk. He does not have any upgrades on his comm, whereas stealth and range and speed are finished for Tagada as well. Tagada has managed to get a very decisive air victory. I'm seeing 3 interceptors out for Elk and about 20 or so out for Tagada as he has managed to drop up here. It does seem that Elk managed to get up his own expansion on this high ground, but it's been taken out by a couple of Medusa and Mantis, and this area of the map is now falling as well. Oh, it's so painful. Elk is losing so much ground on every flank, and we have T2 gunships out over here for Tagada. He's managed to get to T2 air. I completely missed it. And these T2 gunships are going to start mounting in large numbers and causing massive trouble for Elk. He's going to be losing so many land units to this. Right when he was starting to get an advantage on the land units, now he has to deal with T2 air, and he just does not have the tools to deal with it. He has his own T2 air up, but it's not enough. He does seem to be losing the script here a little bit. He did so well in that 3rd game on Crag Dunes, but he is currently falling behind quite heavily, sitting at 39 or 41 mass versus 57, almost 20% behind on his mass production, and definitely half the production of his opponent as far as power goes. His economy has suffered greatly. He's managed to get his comm to walk into the main base of the opponent, but what's he going to do anytime he comes onto land and is spotted? 5 renegade gunships are just going to fly over and absolutely wreck his day. I'm pretty sure that this is GG. He has no way to meaningfully damage his opponent, and with that torpedo bomber and no real interceptor force of his own, he has like 10 interceptors here, but it's nothing compared to Tagada. I think this is the end of Elk. I don't believe he can survive this. We have ground firing being used by Tagada. And it's being relatively effective, and there we go. That's the end of Elk. He has died, and we're going to be going to match 5 in this best of 3. And it is going to be a banger. Both players sit at 1 victory and 1 loss. Let's see who's going to be qualifying and who is going to be going home. Well, technically they're already home, but it sounds so much better when you say going home versus, you know, just losing. See you in the next match. All right, welcome to the final match, the definitive... Okay, I can't say that because we've already had 2 draws. Hopefully, the final match of this best of 3 qualifier tournament. We're going to find out right here and right now who's advancing to the next stage of the qualifier to see if they can get in to the Legend of the Stars tournament. As far as I understand it, that's how it's working, or maybe not. I think the qualifiers... One second, I can actually pull this up immediately right here. Sorry for the pause in the gameplay. Yes, so these are the qualifiers being played, and on December 12th, 19th, and 20th, they are going to be playing the main tournament. And let's go ahead and check in on our 2 players here. In the bottom right, we have Tagada. In the top left, we have Elk. We've seen them play multiple times already. That's a lot of power. And, that's a lot of power. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20... Is that 20 or 21? I don't know. I lost count. Fuck. Right there at the end. Either way, that's a lot of power. Plus these. So yeah, he's going very power heavy. Going to be getting a very early first air factory. Both players, in fact, going for this exact location. Going to be getting that air factory with... Oh, never mind. I was thinking they were going to get the air factory with the double adjacency from mass extractors, but maybe not. Going to be getting single adjacency from mass extractors and triple adjacency from power gens, if I'm looking at that correctly. And let's go ahead and go back to the single screen as we've seen their openers, or at least parts of them, and see how they plan to approach this match. We do have yet again a early hunter out for Elk. He's taking a very somewhat similar strategy, but he's going very, very early for this map for naval presence. He has decided to throw his hat in the ring for King of the Seas. Why is that not a tournament? Somebody make a tournament called King of the Seas and make it like 99% naval maps. Maps where you cannot win without Navy. Well, technically that's not true. You can win every map with air. You can. Just do it. I think you can win every map with air. Maybe I'm just shitty and don't understand how maps work. But maybe it's not super early. I mean, it feels very early to have your naval factory built before you get your second land factory. That feels a little bit jumping the gun to me, but maybe I'm wrong. We do have both players expanding at around the same pace. It does look like Tagada is expanding slightly at faster. Do we have an early T1 bomber coming out for our pink Cybern player at the top left? Both of them went Cybern yet again for this map, so the first map was uniquely suited for UEF apparently, and these 2 maps are better for Cybern. Either that, or they are just more comfortable with the Cybern units offered on larger maps. UEF comms do seem very easily made into powerhouses, so I could see why on a very small map you'd want a UEF comm. As we have 1 land factory finished for Tagada, or for Elk, versus 2 finished for Tagada. We have the first naval factory on the way for Tagada, about to finish, and the first frigate is already out for Elk. We do have an interceptor flying over here, possibly going to kill off this air scout. Possibly not. That air scout going down to the interceptors of Tagada. And the early game seeming relatively calm. We haven't had any massive mech marine plays or anything like that. Nothing, or hunter plays. I call every lab mech marine apparently, which is funny because, you should definitely go check out the Supreme Commander Forged Alliance Forever co-op campaign series on my channel, because the last video I uploaded was exactly one of those, and mech marines have a very important role in that. But enough plugging my own shit. Let's go ahead and watch this mantis die to this other mantis. Oh, it's such a battle! This is what you came here for! Alright. We do have a mantis managing to sneak his way up here, which is, I mean, not really sneak. He kind of just barged his way up here, but it's, I guess, impressive. He's going to be able to possibly, if he kills off this mantis, that'd be funny. That would actually be quite hilarious. Because that would mean he could sit up here and stop anybody from trying to expand. Tagada definitely grabbing the map a lot faster than his opponent, like, exceptionally faster. The expansion for Tagada has been on point this match. We do have a frigate killing his hydrocarbon though, so that's no fun. That's not gonna feel too great. His frigate is currently at 57%. That might cause a large issue for Tagada. The hydrocarbon is possibly going to stall him. It hasn't hard stalled him. He can definitely just pause a factory or two and continue his current production output. This early naval factory is actually getting a lot of work done with this early frigate getting out here and managing to kill off a bunch of power generators, but is there going to be a timely response? We do have a frigate down on the way down here for Tagada. And maybe I was wrong to say that Tagada's doing a lot better at expanding. I guess they're just expanding in different directions. Tagada's grabbing definitely a lot more of this mainland, whereas the naval side of things, we have a lot more expansion for Elk. The players, as far as economy goes, they're sitting relatively close to each other. Elk having a minor lead as far as that's concerned. As far as to the kill to loss ratio, it does seem to be favoring Elk. I don't know why I like looking at this stat, but I like the kill to loss ratio. I think it's not necessarily an important stat, but it's definitely interesting to see how players that trade super efficiently are able to do so. That frigate is going to die, and so is this one. That submarine is definitely going to cause some major troubles for Elk's early naval plans, but I think he got what he needed to get done with that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... or 1, 2, 3, 4 normal pigeons and a hydrocarbon for the cost of 1 frigate is what it's looking like. Possibly the second frigate going down. Yep, it's going to go down as well, but that's relatively good, I would think, for Elk. I think you should take that trade every single time, as we have the actual exact same thing happening though over here for Tagada. Elk, you got into the Navy so early. How did you let 1 frigate just come all the way around here and kill off your hydro? Elk, what are you doing, my man? But seriously, only the utmost respect to these players. They are very, very good players, and regardless of who wins this match and who goes on to the qualifier, I am happy to have been able to cast both these players, and I appreciate you all participating in this tourney and making FAF a very fun place and just giving us something interesting to watch, something with stakes, something that we can all kind of make it into an esport of sorts. And just in general, being good at the game is impressive. I'm sure that the creators of Forged Alliance are happy that even however many years later, 13 years or whatever, 13 years later, we have players who are still just absolutely god tier at this game, who still care about winning tournaments and doing very cool things and just playing the shit out of their game. It's a beautiful community we have, and we have a bunch of frigates over here just causing mayhem for Elk. His strategy. He activated the trap card of Tagada as we have T2 Mexes being finished for Elk. Is that early? Is that normal? That seems like a very large investment. But hey, who am I to judge? Invest your mass and power however you see fit. I am actually horrible at this game, so they're making decisions that I don't understand, and it's probably a better decision than I'd make. So anything I say, take with a grain of salt, with the fact that I am a 1000 rated player who is casting 2 literal pros because they're participating in a tournament for money. That kind of makes them a professional at the game. I guess they're participating and they actually have a shot in the tourney. Couldn't anybody participate in the qualifier, or do you have to have a certain requirements met? As we have just more and more units encroaching over here onto Elk's territory. Tagada using his comm relatively effectively, 24 kills and 1 vet on his comm over here. Let's go ahead and check on the comm of Elk. Not doing quite as well, only 7 kills, and these frigates are just starting to absolutely cause havoc for Elk. He's having to constantly run around and put out fires, and it seems that he doesn't have his own naval production quite up to snuff to be able to counter this. These 2 frigates over here are going to get some work done, but they don't even need to be here anymore. They've managed to take out enough infrastructure and just deal with enough over here that these Mantis over here are going to kill off everything left on this bottom left-hand corner, and Elk is seemingly going to be trapped into his main base for a little while. Like, he's just been kind of constricted out of this game, and there's almost double mass generation lead for Tagada. He's producing so much more mass than his opponent. This is a very dangerous situation. He's about to lose Navy. He's about to lose all of his factories over here. He's in dire straits, and this is the game to decide it all. Unless he can somehow force out a draw with his comm on the other side of the map compared to Tagada's, or somehow get a miracle snipe onto Tagada, it's looking very dire, and I'm not quite sure how you would approach this as Elk to manage to get a W or a draw here, to at the very least push yourself into another game, and at the most push yourself into another best of 3 series. As these factories just start dying, this is a very dangerous situation. We do have a lot of frigates coming in, but there are 2 submarines here. No matter what he does, this is a losing battle because his frigates will eventually die, and reinforcing frigates and submarines will be able to show up just to mop up the naval factories. This is quite possibly just, I don't see what Elk can do to come back. He's trying to push over here, but it's not working. He's outnumbered over here. He has so much less mass than Tagada, and they're both calling the GG, and that's the Control K out from Elk. And with that, we have our confirmed winner of this best of 3 qualifier tournament. I'm trying to find his comm, and apparently I'm blind. Well, it's over here, right? Start moving it back to his main base. Did he put it in the water? Yes, here is our victor in this best of 3 series that went the whole 5 games because we had 2 draws. Tagada, he is the victorious person here. Both players played their hearts out and played very well and pushed each other a little bit further each game, but in the end, Tagada managed to scrape out the 2 victories required to move on to the next stage of the qualifier. I'd like to thank everybody participating in the Legend of the Stars tournament. If you want to check out the other tournament sections, the other matches in the qualifier so far, you can check them out from Guile's channel, Jagged Appliance's channel, and Indrani's channel. And I appreciate each and every one of you. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, joining the Discord, or checking out the Patreon. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Keep tuned on the Legend of the Stars content, and I hope to bring you more of it in the future. And this has been just wonderful. Bye-bye.